I'm Glenda McMullen. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer for the Consumer Technology Association. And I'm delighted to be introducing our next C-Space Storyteller session featuring Facebook and Target. Speakers from these amazing brands will discuss how mobile is impacting consumer behavior and the tools and technologies that are enabling people and businesses to communicate in compelling, measurable, and innovative ways. So now let's meet our speakers. First, please welcome Jeff Jones. Jeff is the Chief Marketing Officer for Target with responsibility for corporate communications and public relations, brand and category marketing, enterprise loyalty, and all advertising, media, and marketing operations. He's responsible for a lot. He is also responsible for Target's Guest Center of Excellence and serves as the architect for the retailer's on-demand shopping experience. Jeff was also named one of the top 5 CMOs to watch in 2015 by the Wall Street Journal, one of the world's most influential CMOs by Forbes, and one of the top 20 social CMOs of Fortune 250 companies. He was also a 2014 recipient of the Leadership Award by the CMO Club. Next, we have Carolyn Everson from Facebook. She is the Vice President of Global Marketing Solutions at Facebook, where she leads the Global Marketing Solutions team focused on top strategic accounts and global agencies. In addition, she oversees media strategy, advertising sales, and account management. Carolyn has been named to Adweek's Adweek 50 since 2013. In 2015, she was named to the top of Business Insider's list of the most powerful women in advertising, and she has been named a woman to watch by Advertising Age. I know this will be a great presentation, so let's get started.
Thank you. I appreciate the intros, but I'm basically a mom of twins and a shopper at Target. For those of you that know me, I typically wear blue, always, actually, when I speak publicly. But today I proudly am wearing my Target red. So that is who I really am. And I am really honored to join Jeff Jones, who will be coming up in a few moments to tell us a little bit about what we've done together. And the reason why Facebook and Target are on this stage is that we share a very important DNA, and that's about innovation. And a lot of the examples that we're going to share and talk about today are really coming over the last handful of months where mobile has completely transformed the way Target is thinking about their business. And it's a real privilege to be able to partner and work with them. So first, I'll share a little bit of a personal story. So Becca Foy, my business lead, who's in the back, and who basically makes me look good every day, is getting married in July. And one of the first things she did is she went to Target with her fiancé, Scotty, and built out a registry. In my news feed, because I had been looking for a present for her, this is what appeared. Now, I know it went very quickly, but it was her napkins and her linen choices, and she's got several dozen items. And suddenly, when Target appears on the most personal device that we've ever had as consumers, my mobile phone, it's suddenly very relevant to me. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about 3 main things. The first, the shift to mobile, which I'm sure everyone's talking about in practically every room around CES. How mobile is the key to on-demand and, frankly, transforming the way consumers are shopping. Consumers are shopping when they didn't even realize they were meant to be shopping. And how you can innovate through real deep partnerships together. Okay, so let's jump right into the mobile shift. So here are some interesting numbers. When I put 7.2 billion, and I often ask the audience, what is that number? A lot of people say it's kind of like the population of the world, and it's not that far off. However, there's actually 7.2 billion mobile connections, which are more than the amount of people on Earth. So as of now, we have more mobile connections. In 100 countries, there are more mobile devices connected than there are humans. Certain countries, like Russia and Brazil, it's close to 2x. So that's the 100 number. 5x. In October 2014, we hit this pivotal moment where there were more mobile connections than there were humans, and it's now growing at 5x the rate of the population. Took 38 years for radio to reach 50 million people. 38 years. It took 13 years for television to reach 50 million people. What about mobile? It took 30 years. Looks a little bit longer than TV. But it took 30 years to reach the 7.2 billion connections. We have never in the history of our lives, and arguably for the last 200 years, seen a technology that has been adopted faster than mobile. It's the most transformative technology, not just for marketing, but for businesses. And let's talk about how it's impacting consumers. Basically, consumers are telling us that their device is with them with the exception of 2 hours a day. So the majority of people say, I've got it with me. I'm not even sure what those 2 hours are, because most people I talk to tell me it's next to them even when they're sleeping and it's used as their alarm clock. Millennials, it's even more so. Millennials can't imagine being without it. You've heard of FOMO, fear of missing and being offline. That is a way more issue for millennials than anything else that we've seen. Yet, there's an explosion of choices for consumers as they think about mobile. There are 3.1 million apps, although 1,000 new apps get submitted to the iOS store every day. So I'm sure this number is dated. It'll be dated by tomorrow. So tons of choices, and yet we find that consumers, on average, use about 27 apps per month. So I know many of you are on your phones, some of you are taking photos, but if you were to look, I bet most of you have and say you use about that for your financial services, your travel, maybe your transportation if you're using Uber or Lyft. Yet 80% of your time is in the top 4 apps. So think about that. I just took you from 3.1 million to 27 to 4. 0.00087% of apps are actually being used on a consistent basis. It is highly concentrated. So how do we stack up from a Facebook and Instagram? Here are some really good competitors that are clearly providing very good consumer options. Facebook and Instagram are larger than all of those combined. And collectively in the US, we command over 20% of a consumer's time every single day, 1 out of 5 minutes. If we add in our audience network capabilities, it adds about 6% of time. So one of the challenges for marketers is to think about how to reach people in the most concentrated way on the most personal device. But that's not the only trend that's happening with mobile. Messaging is exploding. Just 2 days ago, the Wall Street Journal reported that there were 2.5 billion people globally connected to one messaging app. And the prediction is by 2018, there'll be about 3.6 billion, or the majority of the internet population. This has fundamentally changed our portfolio at Facebook. We now have WhatsApp at over 900 million users, Messenger at 700 million, and people are using it in an extraordinary way. Over 45 billion messages are sent daily on the Facebook family of apps and services. So messaging is exploding. But what are consumers doing with messaging? So you'll see the video run behind me, because one of the things consumers are expecting is to have a personal relationship that is easy and useful and delightful in these messaging experiences. Now, some of you might do work globally and know that in Asia, this looks like it's completely, yes, we've been doing that in Asia for a number of years, but this is what's starting to come in the more developed markets over here in the US in particular. This is a partnership we have with Uber, which now you can book Uber right through messaging. So if your friends ask you to meet them and they give you their address, you don't even have to go out of the Messenger app. Again, simplifying the consumer experience. But consumers have more expectation around messaging. They're expecting the ability to actually communicate with businesses. On Facebook today, there are 50 million small businesses that have pages. When you add in larger businesses, the number is even more. But what's interesting is how those pages and messaging services are being used. There are 2.5 billion comments each month on Facebook between people and businesses. And the number of people that are communicating with businesses in a messaging environment has doubled in the last year. So what does that mean? That means the consumer expectation is that they can have a personal dialogue, whether you're a small business or a large business. It's going to fundamentally change customer service and how people and businesses interact. So that's a major trend. The second is that it's all becoming more visual, which is not a surprise, because if you think about it, most of the millennials growing up believe they're growing up in a borderless society. They can get access to information and speak to people wherever and whenever they want. And the written language is a barrier if you don't speak a certain language that somebody else does or that you want some information from. So we see a complete explosion around visual communications. On Instagram, over 40% of every comment contains an emoji. It is just the way the younger generation is communicating. And the third big trend is video. This is a format that we've loved as marketers for decades, sight, sound, and motion. Every time at Facebook we try to forecast what's happening with video, we continue to underestimate it. And from our standpoint, we had a couple pivotal moments where the trajectory changed very dramatically. First was when we introduced autoplay, or a delightful experience. I call it the Harry Potter-esque experience when the video auto plays, and usage took off. And the second one was when the Ice Bucket Challenge happened back in August 2014, when 440 million people around the world watched an Ice Bucket Challenge video. Mobile video, we're at the very early days. We're at 8 billion video views a day. 500 million people on Facebook alone watch at least one video a day. That is going to continue to explode. And so what we see from a marketing standpoint is that in the past, if you were thinking about Star Wars, which everyone's been talking about, it might have done a text update or a photo update over the last few years. Increasingly, we started to see marketers and consumers use video. In this film, Star Wars was the first one to do an immersive 360, where literally if you put it on your phone and had it in your Facebook feed and you just tilted your phone, you would feel like you were actually in the movie. Now, the results of Star Wars globally are extraordinary. Over 700 million in the box office. I can't even keep up with the latest numbers. On Facebook, it was one of the most talked about movies of all time. 53 million people in the 30 days prior to the movie had over 126 million interactions. 2 million people on Facebook invited their friends to Star Wars-related events. And that 30 days was actually eclipsed by the 5 days once it opened in the box office. And so the way entertainment companies are thinking about going to market has fundamentally changed, because now it's in the palm of their hand, where they can deliver trailers and information and get excitement out from the film. Mobile is fundamentally changing marketing. There's no question about it. And we say very deliberately the shift has happened, because if you think it's happening and your companies aren't prepared for it, you're going to be behind. But mobile is also going to fundamentally change the way businesses work. Think about transportation, financial services, a small business that used to only be able to reach the consumers within their geographic area. Now we have women in Kenya starting small businesses on Facebook that suddenly reach consumers around the world. And then, of course, retail. Mobile is a big challenge for businesses. 35% of small businesses don't even have an online presence. Businesses need to position themselves not only for the change in marketing, that's almost going to become table stakes in my mind, but position themselves for the fundamental change in way people and businesses are communicating. And there's nobody better to talk about the changes to retail than Jeff Jones. So Jeff, thank you.
Awesome job, thank you. So for those of you that know me, you know I normally wear a Target red suit. But just for Carolyn today, I wore my best Facebook blue, so what a coincidence we had. I was watching you guys come in, and I'm thinking, how am I going to stand here and share stats about mobile when 100% of the people in the crowd are immersed in their phones? And I think it just kind of puts the fine point on this conversation. A few more stats, because we start to go from what's happening around the world and what's happening on the macro perspective to what's happening in retail. We're absolutely seeing this shift happen as well. When you just start to look at the last year alone, according to Forrester, 36% increase in mobile sales. Now, one of the things that we've been thinking a lot about is, as an e-commerce company, mobile plays a big role for sure in influencing sales, but when we start to see conversion changing and we start to see people actually making the purchase on their mobile device, we know that things are really starting to tip. So a 30% increase just last year in mobile sales. According to 4C, over half people in the store use their mobile device to shop. So again, you'll see different studies and different data, but the point is, it's difficult to walk around the physical world today and not see people using their phones somehow to aid in research, to aid in purchase, or to share with their friends. Deloitte says that since 2012, there's been a 5-fold increase in mobile influenced store sales. This starts to get interesting for us because, again, as a business that still has its lion's share of sales in a physical location, but increasingly our guests are using mobile devices, where do you actually even get credit for the sale anymore? And if you're in the store and you need help buying something and the team member helps you convert it in the store on their mobile device, is that a digital sale or is that a store sale? Increasingly, those lines are blurring and it really doesn't matter anymore. This is one of my favorite pictures from this past Thanksgiving night. We always spend time in the stores on Thursday and Friday getting ready for Black Friday. I was in Columbus, Ohio this year, and this picture just sums up for me two amazing things that happened this Black Friday. Number one is we sold a shit ton of those big stuffed bears. It was incredible. We had no idea, and all of a sudden, everyone's got bears. But look at what's in our hand. We saw more people this year in stores and making transactions on their mobile devices than any other year in history. And on those really important couple days for us around Thursday and Friday, Thanksgiving and Black Friday, for the first time in our history, mobile sales tipped. 51% of our total digital sales happened on a mobile device. That was up 200% versus last year. So when Carolyn says it's here, it's happened, it's here and happening in retail as well. We know a lot about what we call the target guest. And we know when you do kind of great classic marketing segmentation, you really get close and understand who your consumer is. We know when we survey and talk to those guests, 81% of them tell us that they operate on a smartphone. 98% of them tell us that they are active on social media. 77% of them tell us that they have constantly thinking about shopping on their mind. Almost 2/3 of them say they have spontaneous shopping occasions. I don't know exactly what that means, but if you're who's shopping right now? One honest person, thank you. That's a spontaneous shopping occasion. But what we really see happening in the behavior that's changing, that line between living and shopping is blurred. We also see that line between the physical world and the digital world is blurred, and that is true because of the mobile device, and that's why we talk about mobile being the front door to Target. Now, over the last few years, we've really thought about mobile a few different ways. One of them is about ease. How do we simply make it easier to buy and make the transaction? And we have products like our flagship app or the mWeb in order to make that possible. We also see that it's an enormous driver of loyalty. And I'll speak later about a product that we launched called Cartwheel that's seen tremendous success. But also for a brand like Target, where inspiration and style and fashion and home and beauty are so important to what we do, we see mobile playing an enormous role in inspiration, but especially on social. So the other interesting thing that really hits us about social is now the place where ease and inspiration are coming together. Kantar calls it the -1 moment of truth. And that simply means that when the stimulus is the purchase occasion, the funnel's gone, it's totally different. And that now means that social plays an enormous business value for Target because we can blend ease and inspiration to transaction. I don't know about for your companies or your brands, I know it was true at Target. It wasn't that long ago that social just was that free place to do novel things, right? That's how everybody judged it. It's the free stuff. And we kind of viewed that as the way that we can build and help harness the love that our guests have for this incredible brand. And I love the fact that 55,000 times every day, Target's mentioned with really, really high net sentiment. People love the brand, they use the platforms to express that, but as a business leader, just doing that alone isn't enough. And so we had to start thinking about, well, how do you take that love and harness that love somehow? And so the next step is engagement. Everyone talks about engagement. But how do you make engagement be more than just likes and comments? So one of the things that we've discovered is when we can take a topic that our guests are really passionate about and leverage the power of these platforms to rally them behind that cause or that topic, we see incredible results. And so 2 quick examples. The one on the screen was not that long ago, Target's been enormously committed to local communities. We give 5% of our net profits to local communities. That's about $4 million a week. We also just wrapped up a commitment to education where we gave $1 billion. Give with Target was an incredible program to help our guests get excited about the fact they can pick their community, pick their school, and help make those donations. When we wrapped up that program, we did Thanks a Billion with Facebook. And we had 40 million people come to this product and solicit their support for an individual teacher who had made a difference in the life of one of their kids. So engagement for us is, how do we rally our community around a cause, around a topic they're important to, and not just worry about likes and shares and comments, which is kind of more of that step in the metrics. But if we can blend ease and inspiration and we can get really sophisticated with targeting, then social for us has really become a core driver of traffic. And as a marketer, my single biggest role in helping the company grow is getting people to one of our assets, driving traffic. We've seen incredible growing results with our ability to leverage these platforms in driving traffic. Last year, 2015, we saw an 84% increase in traffic from social to Target.com. We know that our guest is going on the platforms, they're looking for inspiration, we're making it easier, and they're going to the next step to convert. Facebook-specific traffic was up 3-fold. So again, what's the power and difference between what we can do with a product like Canvas, which we started testing the opportunity for us to do unique and interesting creative executions. We did a beta test with this product this past holiday. And when you start to see the engagement rates of the unit, the click-through of the unit, and the qualified intention that people have with the chance to buy, that's also a great signal for us. Now, beyond Facebook, Instagram, as you would expect, is a really, really important platform for a brand like Target. And so it's very much the same idea. How do we do more interesting creative executions that brings inspiration and ease closer together so our guests can transact when they're ready? And when I take a step back and think about what we do on each of the platforms, from Twitter to Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., this is a really special place for us. Last year, we made about 800 unique pieces of content. But the number one thing people keep asking us is, so how do I buy it? Where do I get it? How do I find that look? How do I make my home look and feel that way? So when you think about now, the work we've done with Like to Buy, and the ability to click the link and go to Target.com, or more recently, we had a really successful test in introducing the Shop Now button, same idea. This obviously represents for us some interesting things in the future where the actual point of purchase is off domain. So what does it mean in an e-commerce business when more and more of our guests might not actually ever click through to get to our domain to purchase, but it's still an enormously important part of their transaction at Target? So just to shift gears a little bit, partnership and innovation, when I think about our brand and the partnerships that we do in the fashion business, in the beauty business, in the technology business, it really is an essential part of how we think about innovation. With so many companies, your companies I'm sure included, are doing such point work and have such expertise on individual things, we have to view that as, how do we think about it as a talent API and really tap into your expertise to accelerate what we're doing at Target? And one of the marquee examples that I want to leave you with is what we did with Facebook and Cartwheel. By chance, any Cartwheel users in the room? I heard, oh yeah. All right, I like that, oh yeah. So this was a product that we partnered with Facebook to develop 2.5 years ago. And when I say partnered with Facebook, I mean co-located engineers built the product together, really based on a very simple insight. we saw that one of our guests was 4 times more likely to buy a product if their friend had bought that same product. So the ability to take that insight, leverage the power of the social graph, and develop a simple product whose proposition was the more you share, the more you save, and you get to save on the things you want to save on. But it's just kind of even weird to look at that screen. We realized we launched Cartwheel as a desktop-only product. And it really didn't work. And just after a few months, we introduced it on mobile and saw an instant 4-fold increase in downloads. Just a few months after we launched it on mobile, we had our first 1 million download month. And now I step back and look at Cartwheel. Over 22 million active users and has generated over $3 billion in sales for Target. This is how we think about partnership and innovation, and I just wanted to leave you with that great last example of what it really means to go deep in working together.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail more partnership examples. So Jeff said Cartwheel was a collaboration where we co-located our engineers and worked on this project for quite some time, and we'll continue to iterate on it because, as Jeff said, it started as desktop, went to mobile, and as we learn what consumers want from mobile, we'll continue to make it better. But that's not the only objective of Target. So during holiday, we had a number of objectives. They might have been trying to sell specific products and using our carousel ads. They might have wanted to have people download their main app or look for deals or use the beautiful Canvas ad. Partnership to us means getting in early and understanding what the business objectives are. I say to Jeff, and I say to every single client, do not give Facebook a single dollar of your investment unless we're driving a business outcome. I have no interest in driving like, shares, and comments. I have every interest in driving business growth for companies. And how we work together really influences how the consumer experience and how it shows up. If you take an example of my Instagram feed and Jeff's feed, the way Target shows up in my Instagram or Facebook feed should be very different than the way Jeff's does. I said I had twins, so a backpack would be much more logical in my feed. Jeff loves music. A pair of headphones might be more appropriate for him. That's what consumers are expecting. They're expecting us that we know enough about them. They're our customers. Serve something up that's relevant and delightful. How this is manifesting itself in other industries is really fascinating. The auto category has been one that's really focused on this. This is an example with Saatchi LA and Toyota. They were launching the 4Runner, same vehicle, but yet they knew certain customers liked fly fishing, others liked boating, others liked hiking. How suddenly Toyota showed up in those people's newsfeed was very, very different. Another great example, EA with their Madden franchise. There's 32 NFL teams. The way you show up when EA shows up in your Facebook or Instagram feed now shows up based on the team that you play. That's what consumers' expectations are. Jeff shared the beautiful Canvas ad that we were in beta with Target over the holidays. Burberry has been a long-term partner of Facebook, and they've done a beautiful job with the Canvas. And Canvas is a beautiful area for the creative community because you can take still shots and video and calls to action and text and tell beautiful, deep, immersive stories. So for the industry to say, well, mobile ads, like the spaces are really small, they're intrusive, that is not where we are. Feed-based mobile creative canvases, I would argue, are the most exciting canvases that we've had as an industry. Couple of other examples that I think are worth sharing in terms of how we think about partnership. Unilever is one of our most important partners in the CPG category, and we do a lot with their brands. But their recruiting team came to us and said, how can we recruit people coming out of college in a different way? Because the old ways of recruiting people don't seem to be working as effectively. So we partnered with them, created this great film about social action, which is very near and dear to Unilever. They reached 92% of potential applicants and doubled the number of resumes. So everything from marketing to recruiting to customer service, every business function is transforming. Or Kleenex that said, how do we get a message to people when they might need a Kleenex? Maybe something has happened to them. Maybe they're mourning somebody. Maybe in this example, there's a pet story or someone's getting married. Suddenly, Kleenex is showing up when their customer needs them. Or Coca-Cola, who says to us, look, video is really important to tell our story because we're launching a TV show in Africa. This happened to be in Kenya. How do we do it? We partner with them. We take a video asset, make a slideshow so it uses very little data because we have to be sensitive in the emerging markets with the cost of data. And suddenly now Coke can show up to all of their consumers. Now, I don't pretend any of this is easy. It's been a journey. It's a journey for Facebook. It's a journey for all of our clients. As we think about that journey, we started as a desktop company. And everybody knows the story there. We had to shift to become a mobile company, and had we not shifted, I'm not sure we'd be as relevant today. From a mobile company, we had to shift to become a family of apps and services. We started as Facebook Blue. I've been at Facebook almost 5 years. Today we have a portfolio. We have Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, and all sorts of ad tech services. And then finally, we had to make another strategic shift because when we realized that connectivity for us, if we were going to really be true to our mission and connect the world, we can't just provide apps and services. We have to go out and actually help connect the world. So this year, you'll see us have a satellite in sub-Saharan Africa. You'll see the launch of Aquila, which is an unmanned aircraft vehicle that flies between 60 and 90,000 feet and is powered by the sun. You'll see us be rolling out free basics. So what I'm trying to say is that even as a technology company, we have to evolve as fast as we possibly can because consumer behavior and expectations are changing dramatically. And mobile has impacted us, and it has certainly impacted everything that we've done over the last 5 years. So here are my slides, since they weren't going to appear while I shared those last few points, but now they're here for you to look at. But that is the story of the Facebook journey over the last 5 years. So with that, I say thank you, and we do have a few moments for questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, please. So the question is, do we see ourselves creating more partnerships? The answer is yes, and that's actually the way we like to work. So I tell my team we're not in the media sales business. Because I know there's a lot of marketers here. Jeff's certainly a CMO. You guys, if you're a marketer, you can buy media from a lot of different people. That's not what we're selling. We're trying to sell and be a partner around consulting, around business growth. And in order to do that, you have to have partnerships. You can't go in and just do media deals and have a vendor relationship. And so that's what our aspiration is for all of our clients. We have, well over 2.5 million clients, everything from large companies like Target to small businesses. But when we do our best work, it's really a partnership and much more than a media sales relationship.
Did you say it was 51% of total sales on mobile last year, or 51% of all digital sales?
Digital sales.
Okay, thank you.
51% of digital sales. That would be a different tipping point.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
So you mentioned briefly the AR/VR aspect of the Star Wars marketing. I'm curious, I'm in AR, so how are you thinking about bringing in VR and AR into your marketing going forward? And how is Facebook, I mean, it's one thing to have it just on your feed, but are there other ways that you're going to be reaching people with that?
So I'll start off, and then I'll give you a chance to say that at a very high level, we're still really early on. Like, we couldn't be more excited about Oculus. There's a wonderful demo on the CES floor if you haven't seen it. The Oculus Rift is coming out, and Mark, in our Facebook perspective, is that it'll be incredibly transformative. But it's going to take many years. A lot of these technologies take time. There's cost in terms of consumer adoption. And so our perspective is, in order for VR, Oculus to be useful to drive Jeff's business and get more people to use his asset, whether it's .com or an app or in store, is we need scale. And so we are very focused right now on perfecting the product and getting consumer adoption. And over the next handful of years, then we'll start to really think about how it can actually be used for marketing.
Just to add, we view it very much the same way. I mean, over the last couple of years, we've experimented in everything from making games to a filter that would allow you to sort gluten-free options in the store, but really trying to figure out, do what works today as long as it works, but you have to be experimenting on what's next.
I think we can take one more question.
Jeff, question for you. Wanted to get your perspective on how you are anticipating customers interacting using their mobile device with the products, both in the store as well as when they take it back. And it could be maybe they're communicating through a smart label or a smart tag or some other thing.
Yeah.
How do you see that evolving in terms of changing how you anticipate using it to really have much more engagement with the customer post-sale as well?
It's a great question. And I think in the store today, we've experimented with everything from QR codes to NFC to search. And so far, we really haven't found that there is a pervasive way that guests prefer. If you go in our stores today, you'll see something that we just started in the fall, which is a very deliberate call to action for searching for products. Telling people, search for this at target.com to find it. Seeing if we can prompt people more. But QR codes didn't work. NFC isn't broadly distributed enough. We explored this holiday with RFID and a pop-up store called Wonderland in New York. So we're also experimenting with each of these, trying to figure out when something is ready on the curve and tipping point. Something I get extremely excited about is visual search. So imagine being able to see an outfit, photograph the outfit, visual recognition, and buy the product. That's what I hope is coming soon, and we're really excited about kind of that possibility.
I don't know where the person is that's. Okay.
See one up front here?
Yes.
Type in. So what do you think about it? I think.
For us, that's not something that we've experimented much with yet. But I think the idea is make it easy. So as we continue to look for ways to simplify the choice, simplify the ability to convert, that may be something we look at, but we haven't explored voice today.
Yeah, and what I would say from our perspective, the closest thing on voice is what we have with Messenger with voice calling. And within 2 days of launching that, we had 1 million people using it. And now we're actually 10% of all VO over IP globally, just on Messenger. So there's definitely a behavior where consumers are wanting to interact with some type of agent, if you will, and be it voice or other. So we're also exploring it, but it's very early days. I think the headline for mobile and commerce is going to be to reduce the friction. There's still too much friction in the process. Consumers have to enter too much information, or they have to click through too many things, and it's cumbersome. And so everything that we're doing, we just did a very small test with about 10,000 businesses, 10,000 people, on December 26th, just to see if we could serve up products that they would be interested in. But I think you're going to start to see a lot more of that. There's no question consumers want spontaneous and ease of access, and we have to reduce the friction.
Yeah.
I guess one more. Anything else? Okay, in the back. Yes.
Regulations and so forth.
So the question is, how do we think about the pharmaceutical industry? It's an industry near and dear to my heart. My husband worked in it for 32 years, and he keeps reminding me of what an opportunity it would be. And frankly, disease-related topics and any type of healthcare are one of the most widely top topics that we have on both Facebook and Instagram. So there's clearly an opportunity, but there's a lot of regulation about how we do it. We did form a team in the US starting this year. Actually, they started a couple of months ago to start to work with our product teams to try to understand how we can actually deliver product information, but of course, respect all the regulatory challenges. So it's going to take time. Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much on behalf of us. Thank you.
Thank you.